We're back in the most brutal mod in Factorio, and we're ready to do big things. You guys seemed like you liked the last video, so we're back at it again. In the first part, I did some of the basics. We made decent copper and iron furnace stacks, and semi-automated the first science pack and a few other things. In this episode, though, I will go where no man has gone before. Into the depths of Pyanodons. People told me that the last video looked too easy, so be warned. In this one, we step it up a notch. It's time for me to stick my index finger into the meat of this mod. I know you're all slobbering with excitement, so let's get on with it. In my last video, only 0% of you guys subscribed, and I don't know about you, but that's not a lot. Nah, but in all seriousness, thank you guys so much for all the support on the last video. It's given me a lot of motivation and confidence that, to be honest, I wouldn't have had otherwise to continue this series. Anyways, let's do this. Alright, looks like we're back in hell. When we left off in the last video, I just finished a mini factory for automation science packs, and with that, I decided to start making my way down the tech tree. However, it still works incredibly slowly, so I spent the first 10 minutes waiting for coal processing to finish researching. Where is it? Here we are. Coal processing is the first main big expansion in the mod that new players come across. It involves processing raw coal into regular coal and then into coke, which is used for a whole slew of other recipes I'll get to later. All of these are done in a massive machine called a destructive distillation column, which I was able to make fairly easily. Each coal processing recipe has byproducts of coal gas, tar, and a small chance for iron oxide. Coal gas and tar aren't used for anything right now and are just an annoyance. Every few minutes the thing would deadlock because it was too backed up on tar and coal gas. Iron oxide, on the other hand, can be smelted into iron plates with a ratio of 2 to 1, much better than iron ore. That being said, I won't get nearly as much. I made a quick distillation column thing where a line of coal supplied by a new set of mining drills would be inserted into them. I also set up a soil extractor for limestone earlier for a few later recipes. It took a while to figure out all the different outputs, but eventually I got it done. Yes, sir. I watched the first bit of regular coal we all know and love roll onto the belt, and as I was researching steel processing, it hit me that steel takes iron, which means I would need to set up more mining drills. That's when I realized that earlier I used my stupid monkey brain and decided to build the furnace stacks directly on top of the ore, so I then had to dismantle the entire thing. Just for future reference, don't build your furnace stacks on your resources. So I destroyed all of my hard work from the first episode and rebuilt it to the right. I shed a single tear by the time I was done, but I remembered a quote from a wise man. Every act of creation is first an act of destruction, but only in Factorio. So strengthened by these words, I was ready to embark on a new challenge, coke. Coke needs the regular coal I made, but the ratio is around 2 to 1, so in order to have 2 fully functional coke machines, I would need 4 coal ones. But that was for later me to deal with, so I decided to just roll with 2. The recipes for each are almost exactly the same, so it was easy to design them. I put the coke ones right under the coal ones. I finished up building them, and after removing coal gas and tar from the machines every few minutes, I finally had a decent supply of coke, which I put on a belt. Now that researching steel processing was done, I set up an advanced foundry, basically just a big expensive furnace. The recipe for steel takes limestone, coke, and a huge amount of iron ore, all of which I had now, so setting it up was a piece of cake. Without long inserters, I employed some fancy belt weaving tactics in order to supply the machines. Now I finally had some steel. These things are loud. And steel plate, let's go. At the moment, my biggest need for steel is for a sinkhole, which for some reason is extremely expensive. Sinkholes are the only way I can automatically get rid of the coal gas and tar that keep locking up my destructive doohickeys. However, steel production has never been slower, and those sinkholes take 50 of the stuff. This whole episode I've been having to restock my assemblers for small parts and inductors, which got extremely annoying. In the future, after fluid mining was finished researching, I decided that ceramic would be the next technology to set our sights to. It's one of the bigger components of basic circuits, the main barrier between me and an actual good factory. Unsurprisingly, unlike vanilla, basic circuits are extremely, incomprehensibly complicated, but then again, they're only the beginning when it comes to this mod. They're what's behind getting a splitter, electric inserters, and many other necessities. In the meantime, I began designing a more efficient coal processing plant. This one actually has the correct ratios with 4 coal machines and 2 coke ones, but before I place anything I wanted to wait until I had a sinkhole to avoid me going completely insane. We have steel aplenty. It was at this point I realized my power setup was completely wrong. Wait, can these things only support one steam boiler? Oh, it can't even support one. I bet you could already guess this, but this mod nerfed steam power to oblivion. Instead of the usual 2 engines per boiler setup, now it's 1 engine per 2 boilers. Not to mention the amount of coal they consume, so I had to shamefully remove my old thing and make a better one. This is the weirdest power setup I've seen. I haven't really talked about it this far, but collecting wood is by far my least favorite thing to do in this mod. I started in a desert, so the only patch of trees is like a mile away, and I had to go back there like every 10 minutes. I can't wait to get tree farming. Then after 30 minutes, I finally had all the steel I needed for a sinkhole, and boy, I was just euphoric. Boom. There we go. Now we wait. So then I finally got to work taking down my old coal plant and building the new one. It took forever to build with all the filters for the inserters, and even when it was done, I realized that iron oxide was being mixed in with the coal, so I had to thoroughly inspect it like airport security guard to find where I messed up. I finally figured out where I went wrong, and at last I had some decent production. With that being done, I then started work on my coke machines. I set them up the same way I did the coal, and I added the sinkhole. But then it turns out that the sinkholes can only handle one liquid at a time, so I had to make two. Then I got to watch the first bit of coke come in from my new setup. After that, I noticed that my limestone machine can't keep up with the demand for my steel, so I doubled the amount. I also doubled the amount of power I was generating after I noticed that my steel forges were going insanely slow. I was worried I wouldn't have enough coal to keep up, but the burner mining drills were surprisingly effective. After this, ceramic was finally finished researching, and I got rid of my machine for air core inductors, because there is a more resource efficient recipe for them using ceramic instead of iron sticks. Now I decided to research the steel axe, mostly because it would make cutting down trees much easier. After the steel axe was done, I planned on getting glass processing, which leads to a whole new branch of recipes. With my new coal production came a lot of iron oxide, which I repurposed into plates with some furnaces. Then for ceramic, I started to work on getting clay. Clay just takes steam in a soil extractor, however with the changes by the mod, steam wasn't easy to get. I brought down a huge coal line and set up the boilers, which went directly into a building called a clay pit. The proto splitters made it very hard to supply a full belt of coal, so I had to wait like 5 minutes before I got a good amount. It made a decent bit of clay, but then I remembered that ceramic requires coke, which is across the base from where clay is now. I didn't want to have to run a full belt there, so I just destroyed what I did and built it closer to my coal plant. I made enough steam to support 2 clay pits and used a proto splitter to get the coke from the belt. I was about to finish it up when I got distracted by how fast I could mine trees. Oh, and I mine this so much faster. Steel axe, oh yeah, this is so much better. Anyways, when I got back to the base, I made some high pressure furnaces that are used to make the ceramic. They weren't very expensive, so I made 4 of them and put an output belt for the ceramic to go. Every step I take is getting me closer and closer to the coveted basic circuit. I'm so close at this point I can almost taste it. And that's where I'll call it quits for this episode. I apologize for how long this video took to come out. I was super busy this week. I'm also sorry for how short it is. But if you'd like to see some longer videos of this mod, I'm thinking around 15 minutes, please tell me in the comments below. Also, if you made it this far in the video, comment Pyanodon, more like pie. Alright, bye.